Hello, and thanks for joining us for the Pharmacy Cannabis Lecture Series. My name is Candace Hawes. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, finding us on the internet, or maybe if you're a customer from the Pharmacy Santa Ana, Santa Barbara, Berkeley, or in the Pottery. If you're joining us for the first time, make sure you click that link and subscribe so you can find out about our future episodes. Today, we're talking about a very important group of patients who are the most deserving and in need of natural alternative therapies for traumatic injuries, many that are unseen to other people. Working in the cannabis dispensary, I've seen firsthand that medicinal cannabis is incredibly effective as a tool for veterans challenged with managing the symptoms of their physical and emotional wounds. I'm honored to bring you a speaker today who's leading the fight for veterans to have access to education in cannabis. Bryan Buckley is a Bronze Star and Purple Heart recipient, and he's going to share his story, discuss the health benefits of cannabis for those who've been injured in service, and introduce the Helmand Valley Growers Company, a cannabis brand designed to benefit veterans. First, a little bit about our speaker. Bryan Buckley served as a Special Operations Team Commander with the Marine Raiders. He's led multiple teams in Operation Enduring Freedom-Trans Sahara, Southeast Asia, and Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan and the Helmand Province, as well as deployed twice to Operation Iraqi Freedom. While in service, Bryan developed a rapport with numerous host nation forces, enhanced capability and capacity within the host nation units, and briefed U.S. ambassadors. Additionally, he led 20-man Marine Raider teams to Afghanistan that mentored, trained, and conducted over 40 combat operations with the Afghan Special Operations Battalion. Bryan also deployed twice to Operation Iraqi Freedom with the Marine Infantry and Marine Reconnaissance. Bryan was awarded the Bronze Star Medal with Combat Distinguishing Device for heroic service and the Purple Heart Medal for wounds received during combat operations. Those are great awards to receive. Bryan is an accomplished sales and operations leader as well. His credentials include a distinguished background in leadership, policy, training, management, operations, and strategic decision-making. Furthermore, Bryan is adept at negotiations, alliance formation, and organizational communication. His ability to forge productive partnerships among stakeholders and reach high-level decision makers with sophisticated organizations helps to ensure the free and productive flow of information. In addition, he counsels and assists those within the association with government agencies, along with private sectors, to adopt the best practices in compliance with applicable regulations and statutes. Bryan is also a graduate of Villanova University. And then currently, Bryan is also the president and CEO of Helmand Valley Growers Company. Helmand Valley Growers Company was founded by 3 United States Special Operations veterans, Marine Raiders, to provide education, support, and cannabis products specifically suited for veterans. As service-disabled veteran owners, HVGC is intimately aware of the daily challenges that their fellow veteran brothers and sisters face as a result of their time spent on the battlefield. Veteran communities have been adversely affected by the opioid crisis that has claimed countless lives in our country. Upon return to the United States from the military, over half will become dependent or addicted. This has caused far too many vets to lose their way in an ever-increasing pandemic, take their own lives. The Helmand Valley Growers Company is committed to ending this epidemic and providing holistic tools to veterans who desire relief. I'm really honored to have you with us today, Bryan. He's also the founder of Battle Brothers, which is an organization that I know that many of you guys have heard about. And they also have a really cool video that they made, and they got a Clio award for that. So we're actually going to start with this video.
I was the team commander of Marine Special Operations 8132. We would conduct raids on high-value Taliban targets or help out what we would call village stability platforms. The one thing, I think people look at me kind of cockeyed when I say how simplistic warfare was, or being out in like a deployment in Afghanistan or things like that. In the Marine Corps, stuff like that to me was it just felt natural, it was somewhat simple. I hate to use the word simple, it just felt like natural to me. I just could do it. It's just kind of weird that was like 9 years ago. It seems like yesterday, and here I am now giving my kids vitamins. Starting up a business has to be the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, is starting up this company. In the Marine Corps, everything's kind of like cookie cutter, and you do these things, and everything's kind of phased and planned out. Here, it's just like choose your adventure each day. So we didn't know anything about cannabis or how it worked or any of that stuff in terms of like a business side. I'll be honest, I was kind of turned on to the fact of like what we could do to help out veterans with the research side, and then also No one really knew the rules. There's a lot of upside potential, all this stuff, but it was just kind of seemed exciting to get into an industry that was just kind of really starting on the legal side. The mission, or let's just call it the end state, is to get medical cannabis into the VA system. And we're going to do it through our IRB-approved studies to see if medical cannabis can reduce the symptoms of post-traumatic stress. And what's great about that is having the team out of Israel, Niamedic, along with the doctors from UC Irvine. Not only are we going to have data, but we're going to have American doctors validating it. And that's really what I think the legislators need on Capitol Hill. I mean, a lot more people are kind of getting turned on to cannabis. I think more people will start doing some more research, and inevitably the data won't lie. I never tell people that cannabis is for everyone, or like every veteran needs cannabis, but it should at least be a tool in the toolkit. You know, at the end of the day, our whole thing is we want to have veterans making medicine for veterans.
About that. I love that video. I think it's so well produced. I think that really accurately kind of gives a snapshot of like why you're doing this, why it's so important, and like your guys' mission really clearly. That's excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's you know, we got a great group of people, and you know, really the guy who put that together, you guys have probably seen his commercials and videos. He does a lot of top line stuff, and he donates his time to us because he just believes in everything we're doing. So it's really amazing just how people have rallied around us, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a really great video, and that's really cool. And I find that the cannabis industry really is that. You find people that want to dedicate their time and their energy to help your cause. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much for being with us today. I'm really honored to have you with us. And, you know, we've been longtime friends in the cannabis industry here, and so glad to have you as one of our guests. So I mentioned all of your accomplishments and some of the places that you've served. Can you kind of just tell us a little bit about like your backstory, like why you decided that you wanted to join the military, and then once you were in the military, some of the things that you experienced?
Yeah, and first off, again, thank you for having me here. And Candace, thank you for everything that you're doing for the community and your support for us. It's really an honor to, you know, be amongst you, and you know, it's great to be here with everyone tonight and share our story. You know, for me, it was pretty interesting, kind of my path to where I am today. I grew up in an area called Doylestown, Pennsylvania, which is just right outside of Philadelphia. And I played for a high school football program that was traditionally like a top 10 in the nation in USA Today. And it was just a massive program, as you can imagine. And really growing up, that's all you want to do. And I remember my junior year, we were in the state playoffs, and I had a good game in a semifinal game. And the coach on the other team was a former head coach of the United States Naval Academy. So next thing you know, in my mailbox the next week, I'm getting recruited by a Naval Academy. And I just remember how excited my dad was, where he's like, wow, the Naval Academy, oh, this is great. And I had no ambition, no desire to join the military. I mean, at that point in my life, I wanted to grow my hair long, go to college, you know, drink some beers, play some football. If I had time, go to class. I mean, it was just kind of where the mind happened. But that all changed on a September morning in 2001. I remember waking up. I was at the University of Massachusetts playing football at that time. And I was one of the first ones up in the apartment, turned on the TV. And I remember my initial thought was, I didn't think 1993 was that bad. I was thinking of the first time bin Laden bombed the World Trade Center. So I get a bowl of Cheerios, and I sit down, and I get a call from my good friend who was playing at the University of Michigan, and he's just kind of flipping out on the phone. I really had no idea what he's talking about, and he's like, I think we're getting attacked or something's happening. And then that's when I saw the second plane hit the building, and you knew definitely something was up, and you know, forever all of our lives were changed. I think that was the moment, you know, our generation, we lost our innocence. Yeah. So, you know, it was a pretty bizarre day for me, just like it was for everyone else. Probably at that time on my football team, we had like maybe 13 guys or so that were from New York City. And sadly, I got to date myself, but, you know, back in 2001, cell phones were not what they are today. So everyone was pretty much relying on landlines. And you could imagine trying to get through to New York City at that point wasn't happening. So, I was going to some of my classes. Some were happening, some weren't. People, again, didn't really know what to do. And then I eventually had to go down to the football complex to get ready for our practice. And we had 3 big screen TVs in our locker room. And, walk in there, I see people just staring at the TVs. I jump into the training room and get on the table. And my one trainer came up to me. He goes, Bryan, I don't think we're going to tape up today. I mean, I was going to have him tape up my ankles. I'm like, okay. So went back in the locker room, and we had this wooden cubby ones. So we're all just kind of sitting there just watching TV. And, in comes our head coach. And, he was in a tough spot. Again, you had like about 13 guys who were just in tears who didn't know what was happening. And he's like, kind of talking through, and he goes, hey guys, why don't we go outside and have a quick whiz practice where we just put on our helmets and kind of work on getting our fit. And I get what he was trying to do, just get our minds off of it maybe for a little bit and do something. And one of our captains stood up and said, Coach, I don't think we practiced today. And he automatically says, okay, good. We're done. We're not going to do this. He's like, listen, guys, we're all kind of getting information as it's coming in. We're working with some of the guys who have family members there. He's like, so everyone go home, call your loved ones. Life is what it is. It can end pretty quickly. And I just remember as I'm walking out, he goes, I don't think we're going to play today because Pete Rozelle, a former NFL commissioner, said his biggest regret was playing football the week that Kennedy was assassinated. And I don't know, it's just something that kind of stuck in my head. So, my friends and I, we were driving back to our apartment. We stopped, got a couple cases of beer, and, turned on the TV and started watching what was happening. And it was at that moment they started showing the clips of, people jumping out of the buildings. And, that just kind of really hit me where how bad of the situation were they in, where they felt, their best chance was to throw themselves out of, a 100-story building. I also had a friend whose brother was in the World Trade Tower. We're kind of getting stories back and forth what happened, but the final story was his brother got out of the building. He talked to his other brother and said, I can't find my secretary. I'll be right back. I think I have to go into the building. He went back in, never to be seen again. So really what happened at that point was, as corny as cliche as it sounds, I walked into the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror, and just said, it's time for me to go earn my citizenship. So at that time, I knew I was going to do something. And ironically, my mom back in Philadelphia got interviewed just randomly by a news reporter. And she's like, it just makes me really nervous because somehow, she's like, I think my kid's going to get involved. So didn't say anything to anyone, finished out the season. And, I knew at that point I wanted to, make my move into the military. I was thinking about going to the Naval Academy. I called some friends who were there. They told me I'd have to start over as a freshman, and stupid me, I'm thinking I'm going to miss the war. Clearly the war went on much, much longer than a couple years.
Yeah.
So we decided that, Villanova University would be a good place. Kind of a little tidbit. Villanova University has the second most admirals and generals in the Navy and Marine Corps behind the Naval Academy. So it's a really outstanding program, and it's like 20 minutes from my house. So I went from about 235 pounds down to 185 pounds and got ready to go into the military. So had to do a kind of a boot camp thing that summer in Newport, Rhode Island. Came back, started at Villanova. I wanted to be a pilot in the Navy. And then I met a gunnery sergeant at Villanova who was a reconnaissance Marine. And he's the one who said, with your personality and who you are, you need to be on the ground fighting and you need to be doing this stuff. So that's when I decided to make the move into the Marine Corps. And, kind of what happened at that point is I was an ROTC. What Marine officers have to do, the junior year before they graduate, they have to go to Quantico. And we go through officer candidate school, and our version's known as Bulldog. It's about 9 months of just no sleep. And, you guys have probably seen Full Metal Jacket and all that good stuff. It was definitely live and in color for us, for sure. And the hard part about OCS is they're not there to make you into a Marine. They're there to see if you have what it takes to lead Marines. So it's more or less of a tryout that if you're not cutting it, they'll just send you home and that's it. So when I got through officer candidate school, I made it, graduated Villanova. I had to go into my schooling phase for the Marine Corps. So I went back to Quantico. Every Marine lieutenant, doesn't matter, male, female, lawyer, whatever you're going to be, you have to go through the basic school. And it's a 6-month course where they teach you how to be an officer and also to be like a provisional rifle platoon commander. Like every Marine's a rifleman, right? And at the end of that, you get to decide your military occupation specialty, or your MOS, essentially your job. And I put in for infantry, which was highly competitive. I was selected for it. They sent me to infantry officer course in Quantico. I did 3 months there, and then I got my orders to 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Did a workup there, deployed to Fallujah, Iraq. When I returned from Iraq, they said, hey, you did a pretty good job. You're supposed to be with us for 2 years, but we're going to give you a shot to go try out for recon. If you make it, we'll let you go. So sorry about that. Just a little, they'll come back on eventually. So tried out for recon, made it. They rewarded me by sending me right back to Iraq 6 months later. So there's actually a period in time where I knew Al Anbar, Iraq better than I knew North Carolina. But I did another 7 months there with recon. We were all around Al Anbar, which is the western part of Iraq. And when I came back from that deployment, we just started up our special operations command, where we fell under SOCOM and now called Marine Raiders. And they said, why don't you go try out for that? And that was a pretty intense selection. I think there was about 250 to 300 of us. And I think like 35 of us made it at the end of the day. It was a very grueling selection, probably not what people were used to if you look at like what Navy SEALs and everyone goes through where they're yelling at you. I found the hardest part about this was no one yelled at you. They just kind of watched you. And, you kind of don't know, like, hey, am I doing good or not? Like, it's just one of those mind games. And it pretty much just gave you your instructions from a whiteboard, or you found an orange cone and it had something written there, and you had to kind of decide. So it was a really intense and very methodical event. I even asked some of the people at selection, I'm like, how did you guys put this all together? And they're like, oh, we went around to all the branches to see what they were doing. And we also went to the NFL Combine, and that's why you guys get all those tests, because it takes about $3 million to make one of you guys, and we want to make sure we know everything about you. And so did some really interesting stuff in Africa and Southeast Asia, and then obviously in Afghanistan. And, just to kind of wrap it up, the mission I had in Afghanistan, it was what we called the commando mission. So I was in charge of the Afghan 7th Special Operations Battalion, where I mentored their colonel, and we would conduct raids against high-value individuals, and we would help support village stability platforms, which were occupied by Navy SEALs, Marine Raiders, and Army Green Berets. And these were guys where they were bearded up, dressing in traditional dress. Mm-hmm. They would do everything from building a well to standing up a local police force, with the overall goal of just helping these people stand up on their own and kind of govern themselves and protect themselves. And, what we had was, and why it was such a volatile time, they have a period of the year there, we call it the fighting season. And what happens is in the Helmand Province, it's in the southwest part of Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. It is right up against Pakistan. Pretty much the Taliban will come back up from Pakistan in the springtime. They tell the farmers to throw out their poppy. They grow the poppy, cultivate it into heroin. They sell it. The Taliban tax them. And that's pretty much their the way they fuel their insurgency. And then after Croptober, it's all done. And it's amazing when you see like November 1st, the significant events just drop, because they just walk back into Pakistan and wait out the winter and do it all over again. And the summer, where a lot of this came from was the summer of 2012. This isn't anything to brag about, but it was the bloodiest summer for special operation forces since the Vietnam War. For example, I have a 14-man Raider team, and I think about 10 of us walked away with Purple Hearts. It was just very volatile, lost a lot of good friends. And during that period, I was shot up during a raid in an area called Kaligas. But due to the great nurses and doctors, they did 3 surgeries on me in a week and got me right back out on a raid the following week, so I didn't miss a beat. My war ended when we had a helicopter incident, and pretty much my ankle got pretty banged up, and I stayed on it for a couple days just due to the op tempo. But when I returned, it was kind of like, yeah, you got to go back home and get ready. So, did that, kind of did a couple more deployments, and then, fell in love with my wife, and I was about to pick up major decision points, and I decided I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not supposed to be in the Marine Corps anymore, and I should be moving on to something else. And hopefully I can find out what that is. So hopefully that gives you enough little background for you there, Candace.
No, that's great. It's such an interesting story, and I really enjoyed hearing that. And I mean, first of all, thank you for your service. I think everybody, feels that same way and says that, giving up all those years and like really putting your life, in harm's way and leading all those other, individuals and stuff. It's the greatest thing I think that people could really do with their lives. And it's really, I think one thing that the military does is it really kind of, gives people a different perspective, and you can make so much more of yourself after you've kind of like realized, what is really important and, what real life really is. So that's amazing. Thank you so much. And, I think that you did really find your calling when you came out though, you definitely use those skills, and like attributed them to like business, and you had some like business successes, and then, founding the Helmand Valley Growers Company. That's really great too. And we're going to get to that. So once you left the military, and you were in the VA, and you saw all the other veterans that had returned home and like, the different kind of services and treatments and stuff that they were getting. What did you kind of see that the government was offering, and what did you see, that was kind of missing? And is that what kind of led you to get involved with cannabis, as like kind of your experience in the VA?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was kind of an interesting journey. So, I've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. When I was wounded, it was a grenade launcher. So I have shrapnel all throughout my body still, and a couple other bumps and bruises that happened. And so when I walked out, I was deemed 80% disabled. And you're literally kind of like, oh, okay, fine, I'm 80% disabled. Yeah. Like, I don't know what that means, but fine. Yeah. It was when I started talking to other people, and you're hearing people who maybe didn't have Purple Hearts or whatnot, they're 100% disabled. You're kind of like, what's going on here? So I had a friend in the VA, and he's like, come out to Boston, because really the two best VAs that we have are Boston and then Palo Alto, because all the Stanford doctors will go over there. But he's like, listen, you kind of probably got shortchanged, and let's reevaluate you. So by the time they did all my psych work and my physical work, I was deemed like 360% disabled. I mean, clearly you maxed out at 100.
3 times over.
Yeah. So that's what kind of led me to wanting to start Battle Brothers Foundation. I was working for an ed tech firm, making a lot of money, and it was all well and good. But I think it was the first time I kind of picked my head up out of the sand and looked around, and I'm like, the day I left the military, I walked out, tumbleweed went by me, I got in my car and drove home, and that was it, right? It was kind of like it was all over. So there's a lot of great nonprofit groups out there helping the active duty side and their family, which is amazing, and they need that support. But I'm like, we need to do something to help those who served and are out of the military. We were hearing a lot of things about the veteran suicide rates spiking. And obviously, when I was deemed 100% disabled, I mean, I walked out with like 20 pills of, uppers and downers, lefts and rights, and things to counter it. I tried some of them, and I just didn't like how it felt. And so I decided to start Battle Brothers, our nonprofit, where we can help out on a personal, medical, and economic side, which we'll get into more later. But it was in 2016. I mean, my body was still at war with itself. I just couldn't sleep, just constant pain, everything. And someone said to me, like, here, man, why don't you try some cannabis? Now, I've always played sports all my life, so I was never one to put smoke in my lungs. In college, I had a lot of friends who utilized cannabis. I never had a problem with it. It just wasn't something I thought about, especially in the military. It's just like, don't do it. But man, it was like, I kind of preluded like what I find my calling. I think when I took that first hit off that vape pen, it was serendipitous. My body finally went at peace with itself. And it was the first time I got a full night's sleep in I don't know how many years. So I kept using it. And I was just like, this is great. And there's some really great veteran advocacy groups out there. But what's the gap? Like, what are we missing here with Congress and the VA? And why can't we get something that's working incredibly for me into the VA to be prescribed to other veterans? So, maybe I'm hard-headed or stupid, I don't know, but somehow it works out for me. But, I had an opportunity to meet with a couple members of Congress. And I said to them, like, what would you guys need? And they're like, if you can go get data and get American doctors, you're going to have a really good argument. And I'm like, all right, easy enough. And walked out, kind of started scratching my head. How am I going to put this together? And I went to a UCLA cannabis symposium, And during a coffee break, I met a guy who, is kind of like a brother from another mother, this Israeli named Helmand.
Yes, I know
Alon's an amazing person. I hope you all get a chance to meet him. Candace knows him. He's, salt of the earth. And Alon served in the Israeli Defense Forces and Special Operations. And he too suffers from post-traumatic stress. We've shared a lot of stories, and he's been through a lot. I mean, he lives in a real bad neighborhood where everyone hates him, right? So he's kind of been there and done that. And there was just a natural bond between the two of us. And that's when he said, you know what, we can do this. It's going to be really difficult, but you're going to need to get this thing called institutional review board.
Well, I think if there's anyone that can handle something that's really difficult, it'd be you. With your experience in the military, and all the training that you've had, I mean, I think you were the guy to kind of take that on. And that's a wonderful partnership. I love Neomedic. For those of you who maybe are watching or not familiar with Neomedic, they're based in Israel, and they do a lot of research on different medical conditions. They actually work a lot with seniors as well, and there's actually some senior homes in Israel, and they give their residents cannabis on the daily. So a great company. They used to have something going in the United States where they would do some appointments and follow people along on their cannabis journey. It was amazing. They no longer have that, but they still are working in Israel and with great groups like you guys. So that's wonderful to hear. And I would definitely recommend anybody to definitely check that out. So what was the moment, though? You were using cannabis, you were finding a lot of benefits from yourself. You had started Battle Brothers and really kind of had been bringing vets together and having them share their stories and what's really working for them. What was the moment that you really decided that you want to just dedicate your life to like activism, advocacy, and then, also working on like a brand to fuel these efforts? Yeah,
it was, thank goodness for my wife. I think she's already going to have sainthood just for being married to me, but it definitely does some more. But, again, I was getting paid well into the six figures and life was fine, but it was like the first time in my life I actually felt like I was working, and I don't want to go through life like that. So I walked downstairs one day and looked at her. It's like, hey, I think I can help out veterans and doing with cannabis, but I'm going to have to leave my job and start a company. And she didn't even bat her eyes. She's like, well, I know you and you'll make it happen. So go for it. And, we were talking about this institutional review board, and some of you don't know what that is. It falls under the FDA. And for anyone to take anything serious on the medical side, you're going to have an institutional review board. What it is it's a panel of doctors. They go through, want to see what you're testing, how you're going to go through it, what you're doing. And then they give you a thumbs up and thumbs down. And why it's so significant is the IRB is giving you approval to conduct human trials. So they're not going to let you do anything to a human being unless you got all of your stuff together. And it was a really uphill battle for that. And we knew one of the big burdens was going to be, how do we pay for it? It's a Schedule I drug we're trying to get, which is going to be difficult. You're probably not going to get federal grants. And I just want to give a big shout out to Paul Newman, because I was having a salad one time and had some Paul Newman salad dressing, and it said 100% of profits go to charity. So I'm like, well, maybe we can do something with that. So I talked to my lawyers and CPA and said, what if we launch an adult use brand and we can build awareness, and then we can use the profits to help fund our research? And they're like, yeah, hey, profits are profits, so go for it. So that's where the idea of Helmand Valley Growers Company came from, and why that name's so significant, especially the letters HVGC. When you're a Marine Raider and you served in the Helmand Province, you become part of the Helmand Valley Gun Club, and you get an HVGC tattoo. So, clearly we didn't know what the outcome was going to be. I mean, August of 21 didn't happen. So we're like, I don't know how this thing's going to go, but maybe something good could come from the Helmand. And we can pay homage to the men and women who served there by naming this company after them. And that's where we came up with Helmand Valley Growers Company. I went back to the Raiders. I briefed them. I'm like, guys, I'm going to trademark this and so on and so forth. Are you guys good with it? And they're like, not only are we good, can we get a job with you when we get out? And I'm like, well, that's the plan. So it's been great, hiring some of my friends to come back in and, serve with them again. But that literally was the start of Helmand Valley Growers Company. And what we did with, February 2nd, 2020 was our first sale. And with our first $50,000 of profits, we put that towards our study design to submit to the IRB. and the studies to see if medical cannabis can reduce the symptoms of post-traumatic stress. That was really, again, more of an uphill battle. They were like, okay, the IRB is like, where's your DEA license? We're like, we don't need one. We're not working with the government. They're like, okay, where's your agreement with the NIDA program, the National Institute of Drug Abuse at University of Mississippi? We're like, we don't want to touch that. I mean, I'm telling you, I think that stuff, if it came to California, it would fail our testing standards. And I think really why we were able to be a private company getting a private IRB, again, these things are saved for colleges, university, medical groups, not private companies, was due to the gentleman leading our steering committee, and his name's Dr. Victor Novak. Israeli, he studied with Meshulam. He at one point was in charge of Harvard's Clinical Research Institute. And to show how significant of a man he is, during our starting up and trying to get our IRB approval, we lost him for about 4 months because he had to run Israel's second largest hospital's COVID clinic at the height of COVID. And He's done a bunch of FDA trials and all that. And he did this study in Israel where it showed they had an 83% success rate. I'll say that again, 83% success rate. And I have doctors from Stanford on my nonprofit board, and they're like, that's the definition of a miracle drug. I mean, you never see something hit that high. So I think when Dr. Novak slid his study across the table and said, I'm going to do it again, they gave the approval. And what was great with that was we were able to bring UC Irvine to come over top to join our study and to be our principal investigators. So essentially it'll be the Israelis working with US veterans, and UC Irvine's just sitting there with a pad and paper saying, yep, doing their peer review. And if you guys kind of remember in the beginning, we said we needed data. We're going to get that with Niamedic working with veterans, and we need American doctors, and we're getting that with the doctors at UC Irvine. And once we get this first study funded, we'll do it here in California. Just be with veterans in California. The reason why Dr. Novak's like, listen, guys, we're doing something kind of new. We're going to learn a lot, and I don't want to have a vet flying back and forth from New York twice a week because we need to see him again or anything like that. But the outcome would be we will develop a recommended treatment protocol and a formulation. And after that study is done, we're already working on our second IRB. We're in early talks with a VA system in another state. We would move it there. We would take it into that VA system, do about a 50 veteran study to prove that it is repeatable, accessible, and having the same results. And at that point, I'm pretty much done. And I've been working with Congress now for 2 years on both the Democrat and Republican side. And they're going to give me a platform where I can go back in. I'll raise my right hand saying, here's your data. Here's your American doctors. Can we proceed with FDA trials with the end state of getting the Helmand Valley Growers Company medical product into every VA pharmacy? And doctors can prescribe it to the vet, and they walk down to the pharmacy and they walk out with their white bag, and out the door they go free of charge.
That's amazing. I mean, it seems like unbelievable, but it can happen, and it's just these baby steps, and no one has really had the incentive to go through the process like you guys have. That's amazing. I haven't heard of any other group aside from Dr. Sue Sicily, of course, that's gotten this far with the government, and that's just amazing. And how far do you guys think that you're from having the first research done to the point where maybe you can go back to the government and present it?
Yeah, the real big thing is, we have the formulation, we got a treatment protocol. Now we know things are going to rudder steer left and right to the vet. To kind of give you guys a little background how this will go, it will be a 90-day study for the veteran. They will come into UC Irvine Health. They'll get a non-invasive physical. Then they'll go through their medical record, and then they'll have to take what we call a DSM-5 CAPS test, which is essentially the gold standard to judge your post-traumatic stress severity from, say from a 0 to a 10. Once they're done with that, they'll pick up their product. It will be very journal intensive. So they'll get a call from the doctors for the next 30 days, once a week, to say, hey, how are you doing? And they'll kind of make adjustments there. They're like, after day 30, we'll have that veteran dialed into what's working for them. And then they're kind of free and clear for 60 days. And then day 90, we bring them back in, do another physical, give them another DSM-5 test. And since it's a prospective IRB, we can monetize them for doing it and, give them a gift card and stuff like that. And that will pretty much draw in our data at that point. And the big need we have right now is we just need the funding. Sadly,
Yeah.
I'm sure some of you are in the California cannabis game. Margins aren't too great, so you're just trying to get by each month to keep the lights on. But if anyone out there wants to make a donation to Bowder Brothers Foundation, we would truly appreciate that. And I'll get more into what we do there, but that's kind of the big holdup. But once that's ready to go, I think we'll move pretty quickly and get this thing done in about 2 to 3 years, and we'll be ready to go.
Yeah, it's historical. I mean, we've never gotten this far. And that's just amazing. You have great institutions working with you. So I can't wait to see it being implemented and to see it, the results, and then to hopefully, get some sort of change in the federal government. If you think about it, all the pills that they give people, they could be saving so much money if they gave people cannabis. I heard that, if they write you prescriptions at the Veterans Administration, that you have to fill them. Whether you're going to take them or not, you have to fill them, or else you're not following the doctor's orders. So they're spending money on pills that vets have no intention of taking, but they don't want to not comply with the doctor. So we're just throwing money away, in the Veterans Health Administration. And this could save our government so much money. And then also, related to that topic, is they give veterans a lot of pills. When they should be giving them other kinds of treatments. And, we talked earlier when we were preparing for this webinar about the alarming statistics, and that, due to PTSD, and people that are not being treated adequately, and that, some of their injuries that they acquired on the battlefield, that more people are actually passing away after leaving combat than when they were on the battlefield. Yeah. So can you talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, and I think this might be a great time to do a poll. I'm going to ask you guys, the first thing is just how many veterans do you think we've lost on the battlefield during the global war on terrorism? So that would be from September 2001 to August 2021. And just want to see what you guys think, men and women who were killed on the battlefield, and see what you guys come up with.
Yeah, so scroll over to polls, and then you can vote. You can select whatever option you think is correct. So it looks like a majority of the people are saying it's B, 7,070.
Yeah, that's you guys are good. You're probably paying attention to that amazing film in the beginning where we kind of put that answer. But yeah, during there was a study from Boston University they put out in June of 2021, and I added 13 onto it after what happened in the last days of Afghanistan. But we've lost 7,070 men and women on the battlefield during this two-front war, which in reality, if you look at other wars, wasn't that bad. I mean, one life's too many, but that's a tough one. And then I don't know if we can put up another poll where we ask how many during that same period have the active duty and veterans have committed suicide during that same period.
So go ahead and go back to polls and give us your guys' vote on what you think is correct there. Don't be shy. I think people are afraid of picking the wrong answer, but
yeah, hey.
looks like a majority of the people are saying 31,000.
Yeah, so that is the right answer, guys. So during a war, we've lost 7,070 people, and on the battlefield. During that same period, we've lost nearly 31,000 active duty and veterans, and which I would challenge, it was actually probably more, the way they look at vehicular suicides and things like that. That is a massive problem. In theory, it's more dangerous for me right now being here talking to all of you than it was patrolling the streets of Fallujah, or being in the deserts in Africa, or in the jungles of Southeast Asia, or in the Helmand Province. And that is a truly terrible thing, where I always tell people, when you go to combat, you will return differently, and you're going to bring some baggage with you in the forms of demons. And you'll never get rid of your demons. You just have to learn to live above them. But unfortunately, over 31,000 were unable to shake them and decided that their best course of action was to take their own life. And, in a weird way, I mentioned to you guys before, the big money thing that was going on in the Helmand Province was heroin, opiates. That's what they were making money off of, and we were fighting that. Well, now we're back here in America, and we're fighting opiates again. because these are the ones that are killing our men and women. And we just need to present more options to let them, ultimately I tell people, it's like they went forward and fought for us. Now it's our turn to fight for them to live the American dream they fought so hard to defend.
Yeah. Those are just alarming statistics, and it's just so sad too with PTSD and depression. I don't think people really take it seriously enough, but all it takes is like one really bad day, one really bad moment or hour, when like you just kind of like give in to like the disease, whereas like cancer and like AIDS, people like they know those are serious and they like, they really have empathy for those, but like PTSD, I mean, I've had many people in my family actually take their lives as well, and it's just people do not take it seriously enough. And this, I think, is such an important thing. And so I really, really, really thank you guys, for really, really advocating for this and to trying to change this, because it shouldn't be. There should be other options. And the support that you guys are providing is helping that. And I hope you do know that you guys are saving lives.
Well,
it's not just
I appreciate
cannabis,
that.
It's the community, it's both of those together.
And that's, you bring up some great points. I mean, we stress, post-traumatic stress is not a veteran issue. It's a human condition, and it can strike any of us. And, one of the leverage points that we have as veterans, I was just in Capitol Hill in September, working with some really, Dave Joyce, Nancy Mace, Scott Peters. I mean, there's some really great people on both sides of the aisle doing some things for it. But I can look at them and say, hey, you sent me to war. Now it's your turn to fix me. And, we want to use that leverage that, they can't turn, that we're not athletes, we're not like celebrities or nothing. We're men and women who went and fought for the country on your guys' orders. And now, if we can get this across the goal line, it's just not going to be federally legal for veterans. It'll be federally legal for every patient. And we truly believe the road to ending cannabis prohibition will run through Helmand Valley Growers Company. And it's going to change the medical landscape for all the patients in the United States.
Yeah, I agree. And you are completely right. I think the way that we'll finally get federal legalization, aside from the money that they see that can bring, is they'll say our vets finally deserve it. And to give it to the vets, we have to completely deschedule it, and make it available for everybody. So you're completely right. And so by supporting veterans, you're not only supporting, people that really deserve this medicine, but you're also kind of in a long run also, supporting legalization for everyone. So that's a really good point. I'm glad that you really brought that up, because people don't really make that connection, but this is the pathway. And these are the people that deserve it first. It's almost like in the battlefield, right? You help the sick and the wounded, you get them aid first, and then everyone else, follows after. So it's the same sort of mentality, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to talk a little bit about the Battle Brothers Foundation before we leave. So this, as you guys probably know, this is like a huge mainstream veterans organization. So we have a little slide presentation for you guys. And so I just love you to tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing there. And then in honor of Veterans Day, how we can support you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of skip through a couple, but, obviously guys, here's the one slide that I think is really impactful, where you see how many have committed suicide versus how many were killed in combat. And again, the United States of America is a more dangerous battleground for us than it was overseas in some of the most volatile areas in the world. Things here too, we do a personal and medical and economic 3-pillar approach. Personal, if you're getting ready to transition out of the military, we'll partner you up with someone who's just like a big brother, big sister network there for you 24/7, just to talk things through. On the medical support side, we help out with VA disability claims. If the vet didn't get the rating they deserve, we'll go in and fight for them and try to get it up there, because it's not just impactful for them, but extremely beneficial for their families. Yes. If a veteran's suffering with opiate, alcohol, post-traumatic stress, or all the above, we can send them into treatment centers free of charge and get them fixed. We literally just got a veteran from Alaska and flew him into Arizona. He's been there for about 40 days. And he's, he cleaned up, he's looking great, and he's about to kind of move on, and we'll start on with the next phase. And then the last part is economic support. We want that veteran to have the same sense of purpose that they felt while they served in the military now. And it's kind of like that guidance counselor a question, you got $1 million, what do you want to do with your life? We want to find something that excites them. And that way they go through and live the American dream that they fought so hard to defend. And, selfishly, what's great for this too, I get to meet vets a lot where we help them out with jobs. And I'm like, hey, I know this company called Helmand Valley Growers Company. Would you like to come over here and kind of help us out? So it's been a really great tool to kind of help us bring veterans into our organization as well. This one, again, we just kind of talk about the combats through deaths. We kind of really beat that one up with some of the issues that we're facing. Suicide has just been a terrible hindrance. And unfortunately, everyone, I'm not trying to gaslight here or anything like that, but we're going to see more coming. You got a lot of people transitioning out. Some people just are leaving not in a happy place. I'm not going to get political, but Afghanistan really stung a lot of us hard, and people are really having a hard time fighting that one. So unfortunately, we might see more, but I just encourage all of you, if you just know a veteran, whoever, just pick up a phone and call them. You just never know what that phone call might do for them and for their mental health. Here we're, talk about I think the VA is doing the best they can with what they have. I mean, these VA doctors love us. They care for us. They're trying, but they're a federal agency and there's only so much that they can do. And, one of the great things we have on the UC Irvine staff, we have one doctor, she was a former VA doctor. When we decided opiates were bad and we might want to cut back on it, we did the, typical American thing, knee jerk, and we just cold cut veterans right off of opiates. And 2 of her veterans committed suicide after that. And she's like, we always talk behind closed doors. If we could look at cannabis and see what that plant could do, I bet it would be a better alternative than what we're currently providing. So she's extremely passionate about this project that we're currently on. Here I just kind of talk about things that the VA can do and what they can't do. Hey guys, big things to talk to veterans. If you're in a legal cannabis state, you're fine. You can use cannabis. You're not going to lose your VA disability benefits.
Thank God.
Decide if you want to tell your doctor about it. Sometimes they'll put you down as maybe cannabis use disorder, and they'll blame everything on cannabis. Like if you twist your ankle, it'll be like, well, it must be due to cannabis. So clearly a lot of education still needs to continue. And I encourage everyone to look at, Representative Dave Joyce, Republican out of Ohio, and Representative Barbara Lee, Democrat out of California. They both co-chair the Cannabis Caucus, and they're putting some great things together with the Safe Harbor Act, which I think is going to be attached to what we're calling the Safe Banking Plus bill that will allow safe banking, but they want to tie some social equity in there. So we got veterans, and then also working on expungement of some misdemeanor cannabis crimes to get eliminated. So we're thinking that might do it and might get through in a lame duck Congress. But, I just talked to Dave Joyce's office the other day. They're like, it depends who you ask and on what day it is. We just don't know, but we're hoping, especially with Rep. Blumenauer getting ready to leave. I mean, this was like his baby. So we'd kind of like to see that thing happen before he goes into retirement. Obviously I'm probably preaching to the choir here about the medicinal value of cannabis, and just how we believe how well it can do on a myriad of ways. I mean, we are going to focus on pain, anxiety, and sleep. Those are kind of 3 big pillars of post-traumatic stress that if you can kind of rein them in, life will start getting better for you. And, it might be unpopular to say, but I will never tell every veteran, cannabis is for you or you need cannabis. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. The doctors at Medic are like, listen, if there is psychosis in that family, we're not going to bring them into the study because we have found it can exacerbate it. I had an Army Ranger that I'm working with back in the Philadelphia area, and he's kind of going through some mental battles right now. And he's like, I think I need cannabis. I'm like, I don't think cannabis is what you need right now. We're even kind of looking at more maybe a psychedelic path for him might be the best course of action. But at the end of the day, cannabis needs to be a tool in the toolkit. And if it makes sense, prescribe it to that veteran versus 15 other pills. And this really here is just kind of our big call to action of what we want to kind of accomplish this year of, raising about $500,000. Again, if you guys can go to BattlebrothersFoundation.org, even if you just got $1, trust me, every dollar counts. And it's going to go to some great things in a holistic way for a veteran. And even furthermore, again, with our Helmand Valley Growers Company product, it's a great product. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun for you. But also your dollar's going to go beyond that, cannabis product and it will help save the life of a veteran. I truly believe that. And the last slide here, this is, basically our institutional review board, just all of our number sequence and everything. But it's real. It's amazing that we got it, but we're now kind of in the club, and we got their support as long as we can kind of do our side. But I know with the great team at Niamedic, the enthusiasm from UC Irvine, and all of you out there, we all know we want to get this mission done, because at the end of the day, you're going to save lives. And I really believe cannabis is just going to change everything for this country for the good.
No, I completely agree. So are you guys looking for people to be involved in the study? Can people contact you if they want to participate?
Absolutely. Right now we just have a couple things on the Battle Brothers site about the study. But we are, if you can send emails to us, whatever, let us know you're interested. We have like a bucket of about 1,000 veterans. And once we kind of get into it and we get the approval, that's when we're going to start recruiting heavily. This big thing will be, we're going to be kind of tough on them. This is like, you're just not coming in to get some cannabis and have some fun. Mm-hmm. This is your new duty station. And by everything that you do, you will help advance this and change the landscape of America and be able to provide the data that Congress can't deny. So we really want people who are serious, committed, and will do whatever it takes to follow through that mission. Because the faster we get through this research, the faster we can get through all the other things we need to do in terms of FDA side and get this into the VA. And just watch what's going to happen to our country. I just know really amazing things are going to happen. But this is something, again, if you're coming in, you better come correct and be ready to work, because we're all on a mission here together, and you're going to still serve your country. You might not be in camis, but you're still providing an amazing service, and you're going to be on the forefront who are going to do some amazing things to just help out our veterans.
I love that. You put it so perfectly. And if you're not a veteran, but you want to still be involved, you can donate to battlebrothersfoundation.org, 501c3, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. So then coming up with tax time here in a couple months, donations to 501c3s are tax deductible. So instead of paying Uncle Sam, you can pay these guys to help fix some of the veterans coming back from working for Uncle Sam, and spend it more in a better way. And then, so check out battlebrothersfoundation.org. And then what's the website for Helmand Valley Growers Company? Is it just written out?
Yeah, it's HVGCompany.com. So I think we're good on our SEO. So if you just type in Helmand Valley Growers Company, it'll probably pop up for you on your Google machine. But yeah, we're in the middle of changing up some things on the website. But the big thing is, follow us there. Jump on our Instagram, HVG Company. We are very transparent. I'm not in this to make money. I can go off and do other things and do that. I'm here to serve my country and to do the right thing by our veterans. And they're the most important things in my life, along with my family. But I'm very passionate about this, and we want to be extremely transparent. And what's going to be really great is during this journey, we're going to ask some of the veterans, can we blog about what you're doing and what you're experiencing and how this is helping you in videos, testimonials. And I just think it'll be a really powerful way for people to kind of watch what we're doing, and then hopefully maybe educate some others who might be apprehensive of cannabis, just to kind of show the good that it's doing. Again, our research, what you're going to kind of find with this too is it's going to be a microdosing. It's either going to be in a tincture or pill form. That's just due to them being through clinical trials. More than likely, what we're finding out already, we'll have a daytime variant, which might be like a 1 to 300 ratio. We all know about the endocannabinoid system. Niamedic has not seen CBD by itself be effective, but they look at THC as kind of like that engine that can get the medicine into your endocannabinoid system and allow it to do what it has to do. Our nighttime variant, we're cranking up the THC because we're finding vets need that kind of nice head high little buzz going, not just to help them get to sleep, but to keep them down. That's one of the best things I had. If you get up in the middle of the night to use a restroom, I don't have to watch SportsCenter for 3 hours to fall back asleep. I can just hit my pillow and I'm back down again. So again, I encourage you all to follow us and engage with us. We're very active, and you'll also find out about some great events that we're going to be doing out around the state, and if we do expand into some other states. But example, we have a great event going on this week, Friday. at a dispensary here in San Diego, bringing out bands, bringing out a lot of veteran groups out with us, like Veterans Walk and Talk and stuff. And then also we're going to be, I need 23 more manufacturers. I need some drivers. I need some sales reps. I need brand ambassadors. We're not just going to do a resume review, but if someone makes sense, we want to bring them on for a job. So if you have anyone who's interested, check us out at Coastal Wellness in Vista, California, and we'll love to sit down and have a talk with you. If you want to join the fight, we're here ready for you.
Love it. Bryan, you are such a wonderful person. I really am so happy that I could call you my friend in the cannabis industry. You're what you do, I just can't say enough how much I appreciate it and how important you are, and that you're really making history. And I hope that everybody, on Veterans Day really takes some time to think about, all those that have really sacrificed and what we can do to help make their lives more peaceful after all that they've given. So thank you so much for being with us, Bryan. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, I thank you for you and everything you're doing. For me, people always thank me for my service. There's no need to thank me. I want to thank you all for allowing me to serve and to serve in the capacity I could. Not everyone can, serve with their heroes, and I was provided that opportunity, and I still feel like I serve with my heroes right now, helping out the veterans that we're helping. It's truly a fulfilling thing, but mission isn't done yet. We got a lot of work to do, but hear me now, believe me later, it's going to get done.
I believe you. I believe you. And I think sooner than we even think, because we have people like you that are working hard on it every day and thinking of new ways to do it. So wonderful having you today. So thank you, Bryan. Thank you to the whole team at Helmand Valley Growers Company, and for everyone watching. This has been another edition of the Pharmacy Cannabis Lecture Series. I hope that we were able to share some information that will help you become better informed cannabis consumers, and the information we shared will help you find relief. Until next time, everyone stay healthy and well, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Thank you, Bryan. I'll send you an email, okay?
Okay, perfect. You have a great meeting. Thanks for everything.
You too. Thanks.
All
Bye.
right. Bye now.